Welcome to Chalice Unitarian Universalist Congregation. We are a community of diverse beliefs and experiences, nurturing the liberal religious spirit and united by our desire to grow in love and in service. Whoever you are, whomever you love, whatever your life's journey, you are welcome here. Whether you gather with us every Sunday, once or twice a year, or are with us this morning for the first time, we are glad you're here. I'm Reverend Sharon Wiley, Chalice's minister. Our worship musician this morning is our music director, Tim McKnight. Welcome to this online worship service. Welcome to those of you watching live Sunday morning using Zoom. Welcome to those of you watching the recording of this service later on Chalice's YouTube channel. For those of us using Zoom Sunday morning, please notice on your menu, you have a button that says CC Live Transcript. This is Zoom's closed captioning service, and you can click on that to hide the subtitle or show the subtitle as you choose. You're in control of whether that's on or off for you. Also on your menu is the chat button. You'll see people saying hello in the chat. For those of us who like to use chat during the service, which you're welcome to do, please be sure that when you post, you use that little blue drop-down menu to select panelists and attendees. It's so easy to forget no matter how many times we've used the chat because it auto sets to panelists. But if you only post to panelists, I'm the only panelist, and I probably won't see your post during the service and won't be able to respond to it. So we like to use chat for all of us to talk together. So let's give all of ourselves a big hug of hello and welcome. If you share space with someone with their consent, maybe give them a hug as well. I want to especially welcome those of you who are newcomers at Chalice this morning. Towards the end of the service, there will be a link in the chat box for adding your name to our email list. This email list is the best way to get information about our online groups and activities we offer using Zoom. We're going to be worshiping in the park in 2 weeks, and so there'll be information about that. And yeah, as groups decide whether they're meeting in person or meeting online, all of that information, you need to be on our email list. So once you're on our email list, you'll receive information about our monthly gathering for newcomers. So it's a chance to meet other newcomers like yourself. So now let's take a breath together.
We acknowledge that our service is taking place on the stolen territory of the Kumeyaay, meaning humans or people, and the Payamkawishim, meaning Western people. A land acknowledgement works to undo the intentional erasure of Indigenous people and to support the resilience and strength that all Indigenous people have shown. We acknowledge the original inhabitants as a first and critical step toward learning and working with Indigenous communities to secure meaningful partnership and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and sacred homeland.
Now we light our chalice, the symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. The flaming chalice was first used during World War II by the Unitarian Service Committee as a symbol of life-saving refuge for people fleeing persecution in Europe. May our chalice flame burn brightly, that all who are seeking may find us. Our service this morning honors the neo-pagan holiday of Lammas, the first of 3 harvest festivals. The words of our call to worship are adapted from Unitarian Universalist Katie Gelfand. This morning we gather in gratitude as we celebrate the abundance of our lives together. Together we harvest bushels of strength for one another and offer our crop with the hands of compassion and generosity. In the authentic and gentle manner of our connections, we cultivate a simple sweetness to brighten our spirits. May we be grateful for the ways we nourish and uplift each other, for it is the sharing of this hallowed time together that sustains us. Let us worship together. You're invited to join in singing. Our Sunday worship is the shared spiritual practice of our community, and we tend to the congregation during this time by sharing and honoring our joys and sorrows. If you'd like to share a joy or sorrow with the congregation, now is the time for sharing in the chat box. These won't be spoken out loud. If you'd like to send me a confidential note about your joy or sorrow, or to make a prayer request, please email me. I'll put my email address in the chat box. Such is thee, such is thee, such is thee, such is thee, such is love, all this joy, all this joy, all this sorrow, all this progress, all this pain, such is life, such is life, such is thee, such is thee, such is thee, such is thee, such is love, such is love. Our story is a Chinese folktale called The Lost Horse, written and illustrated by Ed Young. In northern China, there once lived a wise man called Sai. He had few possessions, but owned a horse that was both strong and fast. One day, a violent thunderstorm struck the land. Terrified, the horse escaped into the night. One by one, the people came to comfort Sai for his loss. "You know, it may not be such a bad thing," he told them. To the people's surprise, the horse returned a few days later with a Meyer, equally fast and strong. When the people came to congratulate Sai on his good fortune, he replied, "Perhaps it is not such a good thing." The next month, Sai's son decided to take the Meyer for a ride. The horse threw him, and he broke his leg. When people came to console Sai, again he said, "It could be this is not such a bad thing." Later that year, hostile nomads invaded China's northern border. All able-bodied men took up arms to defend their home. Though peace followed, many did not return. Because of his injury, Sai's son was spared. Sai's son had learned from his father to trust in the ever-changing fortunes of life. Together, for all the days that followed, Sai and his son lived in harmony.
Connections are made slowly. Sometimes they grow underground. You cannot tell always by looking what is happening. More than half the tree is spread out in the soil under your feet. Penetrate quietly as the earthworm that blows no trumpet. Fight persistently as the creeper that brings down the tree. Spread like the squash plant that overruns the garden. Gnaw in the dark and use the sun to make sugar. Weave real connections. Create real nodes. Build real houses. Live a life you can endure. Make love that is loving. Keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in. A thicket and bramble wilderness to the outside, but to us interconnected with rabbit runs and burrows and layers. Live as if you liked yourself, and it may happen. Reach out, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. This is how we are going to live for a long time. Not always. For every gardener knows that after the digging, after the planting, after the long season of tending and growth, the harvest comes.
In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
In neo-pagan traditions, August is the beginning of the harvest season, traditionally a time for harvesting grains. The holiday, marked in early August, is called Lunasa. It has its origins as an ancient harvest festival in Ireland and Great Britain. It's also known as Lammas. It falls approximately halfway between summer solstice and fall equinox and is traditionally celebrated today, August 1st. The word Lunasa is derived from the name of the Irish sun god, Lu, and the modern Irish word for the month of August is now Lunasa, spelled slightly differently but pronounced the same. In Ireland, this is a national holiday recognized on the first Monday in August. So in simplest terms, we're celebrating August. Summer is at its height, but the days do grow shorter and preparations for the rainy season begin. At this time of year, some things in the garden are ripe and flourishing. Some things in the garden are still not ready. Some things in the garden are already dry and wilted. Because we aren't connected to the land the way we were 200 years ago, it can be hard to grasp the significance of this holiday. This is the first harvest, two yet to come, one at autumn equinox and the final harvest in late October. We don't know yet what the coming months will bring. We don't know if we will survive the winter. We don't know if the harvest will be enough. Perhaps this year, we have insight that we've never had before. There is much to celebrate now. The first harvest, the first loaf of bread from harvested wheat. For us, the celebration of the vaccine. No matter what challenges we face right now, we are still safer than we were a year ago at this time. And that is cause for rejoicing still. And as we are learning, the future is still unknown. We are living with fresh challenges, fresh uncertainties. We are safer than we were a year ago, but not as safe as we have hoped to be. This is the uncertainty of Lammas. Just because one harvest is underway doesn't mean that rain or other disruptions aren't a threat to our well-being. Lammas is a time for us to reflect on the challenges of survival. And it is appropriate to reflect on this question: how will we sustain ourselves for the hard work ahead? This is the lesson of the first harvest, to celebrate and savor the abundance of this moment, even while we are uncertain of what the future will bring. Today, we will savor and celebrate our shared abundance, the blessings of community with a tomato communion, or whatever you have in your house that grows fruit or vegetable that you would be willing to eat this morning. So if you had read this ahead of time, or maybe just many of us have tomatoes in our house this time of year, but if not, anything will do: apple, celery, banana, whatever you have in the fridge that came from the ground. So if you want to grab that and get ready, don't eat it yet. The word communion comes from the Latin communio, sharing in common. Today, each of us in our own homes and spaces, today we will celebrate together a tomato communion. I'm going to keep referring to tomatoes, but you know you're referring to what you have in your hand. Our shared communion as a symbol of our community, our covenant to one another, to our world, and to all beings. We refer to tomatoes for this communion to celebrate the harvest, the earth, and our shared lives here in San Diego County, where tomatoes grow easily this time of year. By this ritual, we also celebrate our community and connections. Imagine our baskets of shared fruits, tomatoes and avocados. Maybe you'd like to share in the chat what fruit or vegetable you'll be eating for your part in this communion. You're welcome to do that. These fruits and vegetables are connected to all life, indeed to the universe. Each contains the water and earth that nurtured and sustained the seed and plant, the sun that brought forth growth, the workers who harvested and packed the fruit and brought it to us. I see you sharing in the chat. I love it. So I'm going to say some things and I invite you to answer in gratitude with the words, "We give thanks." For the gift that is this tomato, say with me, "We give thanks." For the earth and sun and water and the beauty and wonder of the natural world, say with me, "We give thanks." For the beings, plant and animal, who give their lives for our nurture and sustenance, we give thanks. For everything that gives us comfort and hope when times are hard, we give thanks. For all of these and for so many blessings we cannot name, say with me, we give thanks. Now I invite you to repeat after me, preparing, holding your fruit or vegetable in your hand. Repeat, I eat this fruit. I eat this fruit with love and gratitude for Mother Earth and for all beings which support my life. Now I invite you to enjoy. I'm going to read some of the things people have been sharing. Strawberries, apple grown on our tree, green bean that was picked yesterday, cherry tomato grown by a dear friend, peach, a plethora of Anna apples this year, more strawberries, tomato from the garden, more strawberries, grapes, tomato, apple cut in half, grape tomatoes, black cherries, golden kiwis, and Korean melons from H Mart. Picture us all in our own homes enjoying this harvest together. You're invited to join in singing.
Source of all
The Sunday offering is an expression of the generosity that makes our congregational life possible. As Buddhist teacher Sharon Salzberg writes, generosity is characterized by the inner quality of letting go or relinquishing, being able to let go, to give up, to renounce, to give generously. These capacities spring from the same source within us. When we practice generosity, we open to all of these liberating qualities simultaneously. Please text your donation to Chalice. If you haven't texted a donation before, know that once you text the amount, you'll get a reply with a link to follow to enter your credit card information. And after you've done that once, you won't need to enter it again for future donations. And if your Sunday donation is part of your pledge payment, please be sure to indicate the word pledge after the dollar amount. And finally, please know that you can make a text donation anytime. It doesn't need to be during the worship service. So the phone number will be on screen in a moment, and I'll also put it in the chat box. Thank you for giving generously. Please join in dedicating our offering with words of affirmation. As Unitarian Universalists, we gather to affirm and promote respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. This next song, performed for us by musician Matt Meyer, was recorded a year ago. So when you hear him speak about things that have been happening recently, know that he was speaking about the death of George Floyd and Black Lives Matter protests that followed throughout the summer. His words are just as relevant now, not just because of the uncertainties of the pandemic, which are considerable, but because our social justice work goes on. Issues of climate justice, dismantling white supremacy, voter rights, all these are as urgent as ever. Everything is falling apart, which means that everything is possible. As Matt Meyer reminds us, now more than ever is the time to turn to and lean on our community for support.
These last few weeks and months have been a time of unprecedented crises layered upon each other, a time of such uncertainty and instability. When I try to imagine what to expect next, I sometimes sing this song to myself lately, a song that reminds me not to have any expectations or try and set a specific plan for the future, but to move together in harmony, in rhythm with my community. To remember that the wisdom of our community is the greatest wisdom. To remember that we can move together, that we are defined by each other, and that together we can find a way forward. I invite you to sing along, "We shall be known by the company we keep." We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around, attend these fasts. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around, attend these fasts. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle around, attend these fasts. We shall be known by the ones who sow and reap the seeds of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the well. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. We shall be known of change alive from deep within the earth. It is time now. It is time now that we thrive. It is time we lead ourselves into the web. It is time now, and what a time to be alive. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love. In this great turning we shall learn to lead in love.
I feel like this past week has been a wake-up call. We sensed was coming, we feared was coming. The Delta variant can be carried and transmitted by vaccinated people. We are fortunate, I think, that the vaccines are as helpful as they are. And I worry about the possibility of a future variant that is more resistant to the vaccines. But I also know that I don't need to worry about that today. Today, what I know is the vaccines provide good protection against the Delta variant. Even if those of us who are vaccinated catch COVID, our illness will be milder and shorter than if we were unvaccinated. Masks and distancing are still good protection. And best of all, if any of us do get sick, the treatments we have for COVID now are so much better than they were a year ago. Science and public health have brought us so far, so fast, and I'm so grateful. Our closing hymn is "We're Gonna Sit at the Welcome Table." This hymn comes from the time of slavery and is strongly associated with the civil rights era. I invite you to sing it now with mindfulness that we come together in shared worship to be restored and sustained in this hard work of building a world where racism, sexism, and violence have no place. It has been easy or tempting for much of this pandemic to picture that things were on hold, that life was on hold, and that we would return to it. But life isn't on hold. We continue to need to fight for voting rights, for police reform, to dismantle white supremacy. All of these things not only continue, but have the potential to flourish as we are diminished in our capacity and as we turn our attention elsewhere. So I'm reminding myself and you not to let our attention be turned elsewhere. We need to build this world where love and justice abound and where everyone is truly made welcome at the table of beloved community. Please join in singing.
They're gonna sit at the welcome table. table, around that table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days. No fancy style at the welcome table. No fancy style at the welcome table one of these days. Hallelujah. No fancy style at the welcome table. Gonna sit at the welcome table one of these days.
Our closing words come from Reverend Jim McGaw. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in mindless oblivion. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go without challenging yourself or others. When I say go in peace, I don't mean go in utter ease and comfort. When I say go in peace, I mean go in peace seeking justice. I mean go in peace committed to equal rights and opportunities for all. When I say go in peace, I mean go in the peace that is created when together we build communities of true solidarity, deep compassion, and fierce, unrelenting love. My beloveds, go in peace. You're invited to close our time together by singing the well, and everyone is invited to coffee hour.